Hi everyone, this is Ludmilla, aka Mia from Heart Mind Equation. Today we've reached the fourth and last part of the series Learning Self-Love. In this last part, I'll explain to you 5 simple steps of a mindset process we can all use to improve our self-love. So let's see the 5 steps right away. Step 1 is to be self-aware, meaning being in the here and now. So to be self-aware, we have to engage to the present moment, not living on an autopilot mode sustained by our subconscious mind, where we can repeat the same mistakes and face the same kind of challenges. Everything we have come to believe from our past is only going to keep us there in the past, as we keep having the same thoughts we had yesterday or the day before. You see, it's funny how when we're at work, we want to be home. And when we're home, we think of something about work. Often we fast forward our heads in the next thing we need to do or the next place we need to go. And sometimes with the same unsolved worries we had. So it's easy to be living in the regrets of yesterday or in the fear of tomorrow. When we're fully present in the moment, we live consciously, and it helps at so many levels. So it makes it more difficult for our negative thoughts to emerge from our subconscious mind, as we are using our conscious mind when we're living consciously. Less negative thoughts we have about ourselves, the better we feel. And instead of repeating history, we are making new memories. Step 2. So, step 2 is to block all negative thoughts about ourselves, especially those related to conditionings. The conditionings that give life to all of our fears. So, the negative thought related to our low self-worth or low self-esteem, if you wish, it has to be identified as only a thought, not as reality. That's a way to say that we get out of our heads in the moment and we observe the thought, not necessarily confronting it. In this way, we can detach the thought from our reality. We can even go back sometimes and find out what conditioning is associated with it by naming the conditioning. We name the kind of negative thought that is related. So we can think about fear or anger or frustration, etc. By knowing that this specific negative thought is only a program, we can decide not to run that program. So then it becomes easier to remove our focus from it. We can then break the loop of negativity. You see, when we go on all the theories of neuroscience, it takes from 9 seconds to 2 minutes before a thought forms a frozen circuits from our brain cells that we call the neurons. The faster we remove the negative thought, the better it is. Every time we ignore a thought, we disempower it, and the neural circuits loosen. What we don't use, we lose. Step 3. So step 3 is to replace the negative thought with a positive awareness. After we have identified the negative thoughts about ourselves and disidentify us from it by just observing it, knowing that it was not part of our reality, we need to replace it. Replace that thought with a positive one. For each negative thought, there is another positive statement. For example, some would say, I'm not good at any sports. But you could replace that thought by, but I'm good at playing guitar. Another person would say, my mother gave me up for adoption when I was a baby. She did not want me. You could replace that thought by, I was adopted because I was wanted by my adoptive parents. I was chosen. Someone else can say, well, I'm afraid not to be good enough for that job. Replace the thought by, I have what I need to execute this job. What I do not have, I will get, or I can find a job that matches my competence. So basically, the reason why we need to replace the negative thought by a positive one is simply because the mind cannot hold an empty space. If we don't replace the thought that we just removed, it will soon come back. So at the same time, we should never talk to ourselves or about ourselves with statements that you do not want to be true. What we say about ourselves out loud strengthens the thoughts we have about ourselves. We do not want our negative comments to become self-fulfilling prophecies. Step 4. So, step 4 is to make a list of affirmations about yourself, or make a recording of the list using your own voice. All affirmations should be in a positive sentence and in a present tense, always. Preferably, the affirmations must express attributes beginning with I am. Read the list to yourself every night before going to bed, or every morning when you just woke up, before getting out of bed and engaging to your everyday routine. Suggestion: to read that list repetitively for a minimum of 21 consecutive days. Examples: I have a few examples of my affirmations. So here it is. I have, I am lovable. I matter. My opinion matters. I am wise. I am healthy. I am beautiful. I am admirable. I am a high value to myself. I am worthy of happiness. I am a child of Almighty God. You know, there's a famous author. His name is Nathaniel Branden. He wrote a bestseller book called The 6 Pillars of Self-Esteem. That was back in 1994. In his book, there are some examples of affirmation that resonate a lot with me. So I've joined those affirmations to my list. So affirmations such as, I have the right to exist. I have a purpose for living. I live up to my expectations, not someone else's. My life belongs to me. I deserve to be treated with respect. If someone treats me disrespectfully, it is not a reflection on me. It's a reflection on them. I have the right to make mistakes because that's how I learn. And last one, I am enough. So you can have two questions, I would say, about the recommendations for affirmation. Question one would be, why is it suggested to do the affirmations, to do it before bed or when we wake up? Question two would be, why do you need to repeat the affirmations for a minimum of 21 days? So answer to question number one, that is why we need to do the affirmation list before bed or when we wake up. So the answer is that mainly we have to do this because our brain waves changes from beta to alpha and alpha to theta when we are already in bed waiting to fall asleep. So our brain activity slows down. This is a time when there's a door that opens in our mind that allows the progressive shift from our conscious mind to our subconscious mind. At that time, our subconscious mind is more receptive to statements and affirmation. Same process happens the other way around when we wake up in the morning. What we teach our conscious mind, that is in the frontal lobe of our brain, it has to be sustained for us to remember it usually. But what the subconscious mind learns stays longer as it's influenced by our limbic brain. The limbic brain, that's the seat of our emotions. Maya Angelou, she's an author and philanthropist, and she once said in her book, we can't forget what someone said or what someone did, but we never forget the way that someone made us feel. When something is printed in our subconscious mind, it becomes our truth, especially if we have a strong emotion attached to it. So, the answer to question number two, which was why we need to do this 21 days, a minimum of 21 days, is simply because it takes that amount of time, a minimum of a consecutive 21 days of repetition of an affirmation or a behavior for a habit to form. So the neurons stimulated by the affirmation or the specific behavior wire together to form frozen circuits that can be activated on autopilot mode. We can call that neuroplasticity. So the statement, the affirmation becomes true for us. So it becomes a new self-conditioning. Number 5, the step 5 is visualization. So while we're repeating our list of affirmation or when listening to our recording, we need to imagine and feel what we are saying. If it's an affirmation that you don't believe yet, you don't believe it to be true yet, you need to say it with your eyes closed and imagine it as if it was true. If you still have difficulty to feel the affirmation as true, you need to talk to yourself instead of letting yourself talk to you. Ask yourself, for example, how does it feel? And then you add the statement of your affirmation. Example, how does it feel to be joyful? How does it feel to be smart? How does it feel to be successful? How does it feel to be patient, to be rich, to be outgoing? You ask yourself a question right before preparing to fall asleep. It's very powerful at that time. The fact is that the subconscious mind registers the question. It will go and get the answer for you and reveal it to you any morning when you just woke up. So, I will eventually, speaking of about the subconscious mind going to get the answer for you, I'll eventually do a podcast on the sleep patterns and illustrate what happens to our brain and also to our spirit when we're asleep. But that is a subject to come. Let's go back on our current subject. So, you use your imagination to visualize your affirmation, to embody the feeling with your 5 senses. So, the power of directed imagination can make you feel a potential emotional state, as your subconscious mind does not know the difference between what is real and what's imagined. As you're repeating your affirmations out loud using your imagination, what do you see? Pay attention of what you're visualizing. What do you see? What do you hear? What do you smell? Who is with you? What are you doing? Sitting down, standing up, walking, talking? What is your mood, etc.? The visualization can also be practiced with meditation. Meditation is basically to have a moment in your day or your busy week to be alone with yourself in silence, away from the everyday world noises, to be able to listen to yourself. Sometimes we can hear our intuitions, which is one language God uses to speak to us. If praying is us talking to God, well, our intuition is God talking to us. Unfortunately, when we do not appreciate ourselves, we tend to lose ourselves in different distractions. That is to prevent being alone with our own thoughts. In my case, my number one distraction is music. Whenever I feel down or anxious, I listen to music. Some people turn to compulsive shopping, mostly women. Others turn to social medias, sports, even work sometimes could be a distraction. Sadly, other people, though, turn to some destructive behaviors that can become addictive, such as alcohol, prescription drugs or illegal drugs, gambling, unsafe sex, etc. Outside distraction could be good, but can only help us temporarily. It's like putting a dressing on a wound that hasn't been disinfected first. We cover it, not to see it, as sometimes we don't know how to nurse it. That's why the practice of meditation can help us to reach a sense of peace within ourselves, disconnecting us from everybody's requests or expectation. We can hear our higher self through silence only. Meditation is also a way to access our subconscious mind. There are many guided meditation podcasts or videos you can access to online. If you practice your own meditation techniques, do not forget to deep breathing, necessary to slow down our brain activity pace. So, using the imagination to visualize our affirmation, accompanied by a charged emotion, will enter the subconscious mind. So, from positive imprinted affirmation comes a belief system that changes in a good way the state of our hearts, so we can feel more worthy, feel more confident. Indeed, we need to align those three: thoughts, emotions, and feelings to form a loop. It's all three of them form a loop from our mind, our heart, and our body. Then we can act and behave like a person who truly loves oneself. So to summarize the 5 steps, we have 1, self-awareness, meaning disregarding the conditionings and living in the present moment. We have 2, disidentify ourselves from the negative thought, so meaning be an observer. Step 3, replace the negative thought by a positive one or an affirmation. Step 4, read or listen to your list of affirmation twice a day for a minimum of 21 consecutive days. And number 5 is visualization of the affirmation accompanied by the appropriate emotion, with or without meditation. So in conclusion, just want to let you know that this completes my Learning Self-Love series. Hope you enjoyed it. And if my podcast resonates with you, don't forget to give me a thumbs up or leave a comment below, or you can even share it with someone. Stay tuned and get notification for my next podcast, or simply follow me on Facebook. Until then, this is Mia, and thank you for tuning into my channel, Heart Mind Equation, to unlock hidden potentials.